with you once again, Native of Madness Radio. I am with Mike Holland, who is a columnist for TJRWrestling.net. And Mike, where do I even start?
I don't even know where to start.
It was a roller coaster, to say the absolute least.
It was. It was like one of those nights where you kind of kept waiting for something to happen, and it sort of never did. So
I got honestly, if there was ever a time to use these sound effects, guys, and by the way, if you want to chat with us, use the hashtag on Twitter, MEM Live. Follow me on Twitter, at Jon MEM Radio, and Mike Holland is at Darman Rockwell, DHARMAN Rockwell. It is a night of two sound effects, and sorry, guys, a lot of Mountain Dew in the system. To sleep as little as I did last night, I'm still rearing to go for this. It is a night of two words. And? I mean, does that not sum it up?
That's perfect.
Now I'm going to throw it to you for a second. Pre-show. Talk about that a little bit. I went down to a bar down here to try to see it. It wasn't a good experience, to say the least. I'm not going to, bury them or anything like that, or, talk smack. But it wasn't a good experience, so I rushed back home and missed the pregame show, or the pre-show, I should say, and missed the opening to WrestleMania and a good chunk of the Intercontinental title match. But I got back. But talk a little bit about the pre-show.
Well, the pre-show was interesting. There were a couple people, including, as I referred to him, my boss, John Canton, who runs TJR. It was also at WrestleMania, so, both of us know a couple folks that were there. And the majority of the tweets and things were talking about how no one could get into the building. The lines were incredibly long, and I don't know, because I wasn't there. Maybe Kurt, can give us something on that. I know he was saying there was a line, but inside the building, they're hyping up the matches, and the building looks empty. I mean, when I tell you empty, like one person in an aisle, empty for basically the entire first hour of the pre-show. And including when they started doing the actual matches, because they had the United States title match, then that horrible, let's not, even go there, Divas match. So people who paid for the tickets actually were not in the building when a good portion of that went on. So that was kind of odd, just in itself. And as far as the pre-show goes, I mean, it was adequate. Also Usos, Dudleys, were in there, and again, that was pretty rushed. And so it was just sort of like, it was filler, as we expected it to be, but there was that added weirdness of the fact that it seemed like no one was really, or very few people were there to view it. So the whole thing started off on kind of an odd note as far as the pre-show goes.
Yeah, I heard a lot about that, and I guess the biggest thing was the Wi-Fi went down. So they weren't able to scan the tickets or something like that.
Okay.
But nonetheless, it just... that sigh right there says it all. I want to do one thing, though. I legitimately... And I'm doing this in honor of Kurt. This man was, if I know him enough, and the little bit I know him, he was absolutely ecstatic for the Intercontinental Championship match. And still more cheers in that little 15-second clip than Roman Reigns got. Which, by the way, did you notice they turned the mics completely down when Reigns was celebrating? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
You tried. You could still hear it. There's no way 101,000 people, almost 102,000 people are that quiet. Nice try, WWE.
Does it amaze you, John, the way it amazes me that they still try these audio tricks? I mean, they did it when they were piping in the Goldberg chant. Like, no one's ever fooled by this stuff. You don't even have to be, an enthusiast to pick up on it. They still try the same routines, like as if to fool you that you're going to be somehow convinced that that everyone does not agree that this is a horrible outcome.
We got off topic. The applause and finally, Zack Ryder. Kudos to that man. That man has been in WWE 10 years and finally wins at WrestleMania and wins the Intercontinental Championship. I tip my hat to you, sir. Congratulations. A shocker, a genuine shocker, and a good surprise for WrestleMania. Loved it. It wasn't one, Zack Ryder, nobody thought he was going to win. But you know who's kicking themselves square in the ass? Yes, the whole thing was overblown. But you know who's kicking themselves square in the ass right now? It's Titus O'Neil. Zack Ryder got Titus O'Neil's spot.
Well, that'll teach you to push Vince.
Exactly. I mean,
Vince pushes you, guys. You don't push Vince. Vince pushes you.
I get it was playful, but I don't think it would have had the same effect, though.
No. Well, I would also say to you that I agree with your point. I mean, I think the Zack Ryder thing is great and good for him, as you said. But what's confounding to me is, wouldn't the story have been so much better if they had built up Zack Ryder to some degree? I mean, I get that it came out of nowhere, and in the pre-show they kind of had a throwaway where Booker T was actually laughing when it was brought up that Zack Ryder could win the match. So I thought that was kind of cute. Looking back on it now, it's like, oh yeah. But I mean, there was no build at all for him to even be in the match. So to me, again, I don't want to overstate and take away from one of the few very good things that, I think you and I agree on as far as the show. But I really have to question, this is exactly what is wrong with WWE's creative or booking or whatever you want to call it. You have this guy, he's got, great fan reaction, and you just kind of do something pretty cool, but you still have the issue with the fact that it would have been an even better story if they had bothered to tell a story. But instead it was just throw him in the match and he wins the belt and we'll see what happens next.
You don't even have to see what's going to happen next. You know what's going to happen next.
Well, true.
Kevin Owens wants his rematch tomorrow night on Raw. He's going to... Ding, ding, ding. Power bomb. 1, 2, 3. Here's your winner, Kevin Owens. It's going to be a 10-second squash. And it's going to make you ask, and this, I swear to you, if you didn't watch WrestleMania, the honest-to-God theme of it is, why did you even bother? Why did you waste our time? Why did you waste our time with the New Day? Why did you waste your time even bringing Shane McMahon back? Why did you waste your time putting the Divas on such a pedestal only for more bullshit with that Ric Flair finish? And then the Wyatt family, yes, they got such a rub, but they got buried to hell by John Cena and The Rock. And, I mean, don't even get me started on the squash of Eric Rowan. Don't even get me started on that. But and we're going to talk a little bit more about these matches in depth in a minute, but I will say 3 words for you. Baron frickin' Corbin. Did I call that, or did I call that?
Absolutely.
I was so shocked to see him come out. And if people don't truly believe in the state of WWE and how bad it is right now, let me remind you, Cesaro was reportedly cleared by WWE. John Cena was cleared. Yes, we saw John Cena. He made his first of soon to be in the future many nostalgia act or appearances, which was weird to see Cena in a nostalgia act appearance, but that's what it was. We got DDP, which nothing against DDP. I love me some DDP. And by the way, at Real DDP and at DDP Yoga on Twitter, buy his stuff. He's a friend of the show. Tatanka and Shaquille O'Frickin-Neal. Really?
That wasn't doing it for you?
No.
I was rapid firing on Twitter, which, so I really went nuts, and God knows how many tweets I sent out. I mean, they got, of course, progressively angrier as the night went on. But I actually think Tatanka had a hell of a push in that match, and it was better than the push that he got when he was wrestling full time. So some of the luminaries, I agree, like with the names that you heard thrown around, Goldberg and Seth Rollins and Randy Orton. Instead, you sort of got some other guys, but not to be lost in that. To your point, the fact that Baron Corbin won. It's interesting. We spent a lot of time talking about the NXT event, and of course he took the loss. And we've been saying some of those guys, maybe the reason that they're winning or losing is because they're moving to the main roster. Just the way that they do things is very odd.
Yes.
Like he's coming off a loss at that event to a guy that has some excitement, and then they bring him to the main roster unceremoniously. And again, just like I was complaining about the Zack Ryder thing, it's great that you're giving him an opportunity, but you just sort of throw it out there and he wins, and then it's like, oh, okay, he got the Andre Trophy, yay. So there doesn't really seem to be long-term planning here. It's just kind of like, let's throw some ingredients into the pot, and hopefully we can make something delicious, but probably just going to be hamburger helper.
Probably. Even that, probably moldy, expired. All right, so before we move on, we're talking about Baron Corbin here. Go ahead. Throw me through the ringer. You know what I did. Go ahead.
You really want me to say this?
Go for it. It was an accident.
Okay, no, it was an accident. It was. For a minute, we thought that there were two basketball, greats in the.
Hold on, before you throw me through the ringer, I want a chance to defend myself.
Okay.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter at Jon MEM Radio, and you guys can see, and I'm not doing this to show my Twitter account. Honest to God, look at my Twitter account. I blew that thing up tonight.
Oh, you did?
Some people say that they mean nothing. At last count, I got over 32,000 Twitter impressions. So, for a little podcast that, only has a few thousand followers, I'd like to think I was doing pretty good. Having said that, my computer was slowing down a little bit. My computer started lagging a little bit. And I went to click Baron Corbin, and as Mike Holland is going to tell you while I run out to the other room to go grab my phone, he's going to explain to you how I have botch of the night. The floor is yours, Mr. Holland.
Fair enough, John. I don't know if it was botch of the night, because I think you have some competition from what we saw in WrestleMania. But it is in fact true that Jon Curry, who I've grown very fond of in my few visits to the show, decided to put out there that Baron Davis had in fact won the Andre the Giant, which was a surprise because we hadn't seen him in the ring to that point. But to further defend you, John, it wasn't out of the question because, as you said, they brought Shaq out, so why not?
It was an accident, and did I get called out for it? Oh, did I get
You
called
brought it up. I wasn't even gonna go.
Listen, when you screw up like I did, as blatantly as I did, you gotta own up to it.
Right, fair enough.
So do a few people on Twitter. I'm not going to throw any Twitter handles out there, but my bad. And Baron Davis, thank you for the whatever impressions that I got from you. But having said that, I'm going to go back. Let's talk. We talked about the Intercontinental title match. We have a lot to talk about in the next, so how long you got?
I'm here till you pull the plug, buddy.
All right, sounds good. Waiting word if Kurt Zamora is going to call in or not. In the meantime, We have a lot to talk about, including an astounding, counting the pre-show, 12 matches at WrestleMania. 12 matches, 2 of which combining for 5 minutes and 24 seconds. That's just... But... Have we gotten an update, by the way, if Shane McMahon is alive?
I have not personally gotten that, but considering that his kids were still at ringside at the end, I'm going to assume that he is in fact breathing.
Well, that's always a plus. Sorry, if you guys are familiar with Facebook groups, Yes Wrestling, by the way, just changed their name to Roman Wrestling. Oh, man, tomorrow night is going to be fun.
Isn't it, though?
Oh, it's going to be a blast. So let's dive right into this. We touched on the pre-show on the Intercontinental title. Chris Jericho and AJ Styles. That match could have gone another 10 minutes, and I would not have been disappointed. What were your thoughts on that match?
I agree with you. I mean, you know, my comment or one of my comments as I was watching the match is it's great to watch two people that are really good at their job do their job. And that's what those two guys did. And I have to give it to the WWE. I don't know if it was a reactionary move because everybody, and when I say everybody, I mean every site I looked at, every person I talked to, everybody said, no doubt, the one sure thing of the night is that AJ Styles will win. Because Jericho, of course, has lost to everybody as part of his, second coming. He's jobbed to everybody in a great way, and that's the great thing about him. So naturally, they threw you a curveball at the end of that match and had Jericho go over. But, my attitude is, who cares? Because the match was great. AJ made an impression, which is the whole point. And Jericho deserves it for all the hard work he's done. So I'm with you. They could have wrestled in fact, had they wrestled for maybe another 2 hours, this would be a completely different show.
Absolutely, wholeheartedly agree. And, I love fun facts. You want a fun fact?
I would love a fun fact.
We're talking about Chris Jericho, and if you guys missed it, Chris Jericho defeated AJ Styles. Spoiler alert there. Chris Jericho. I want to see this really quick. Did Chris Jericho compete at WrestleMania 17? I want to say he did.
If I would think that he did. Yes.
Let's see. Bear with me for just a second here, folks. Chris Jericho has only won 3. I want to say, because I don't think he won at WrestleMania 16. But you want to know? I'm double checking on this. Chris Jericho's last wins at WrestleMania: WrestleMania 26, WrestleMania 32, WrestleMania 17, and okay. So Chris Jericho won at 16, 17, 26, and 32. After only missing 22, 23, and 30? I think. No, he wasn't there last year.
That's kind of unbelievable.
It is. The amount of guys he's put over in that time. Triple H, Booker T, I believe. No. I forgot who he faced it. Actually, I just had it up. Gotta love the power of Wikipedia, guys. Live radio. I should have had this prepared. My inner Jim Ross in me. So the guys he's put over at WrestleMania: Triple H, Shawn Michaels, 5 guys in the Money in the Bank ladder match, 6 guys in the Money in the Bank ladder match, Mickey Rourke, Roddy Piper, and Ricky Steamboat, Fandango, right. CM Punk. And it didn't really surprise me that AJ lost. how many WWE newcomers from another company win a WrestleMania? Come on. You think they were going to let that little tidbit go? Oh, good for Colin Cowherd being the douchebag that he is. Can we say douchebag on the air?
I think you did.
I did say douchebag because Colin Cowherd is a douchebag. Sorry. Well, hey, it's my show anyway. So, no, he was saying how stupid wrestling was, and apparently Coach put him in the spot. Good for him.
Yeah, that is good because I think I appreciate ESPN getting involved in that, and I think that's the attitude that you normally get, and it's one of the things that bothers me a lot. Are all the assumptions about wrestling and wrestling fans. It's one of the things I definitely try to combat in my writing because it's just silly. If you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to like it, but normally the people who make those comments know nothing about it, so therefore their opinion is quite irrelevant.
Yeah, I'm looking up Coach's tweet. Colin Cowherd said, "Could you guys please update me on who's winning the fake wrestling matches?"
Right. Nice.
And there's a reason you're a scumbag who got fired from ESPN because you're a racist.
Exactly.
And a bigot and an idiot.
Well said. But I do want to say to you, John, to your point about Jericho. I hadn't really thought about it until you brought it up and I think it's a testament to Jericho, is that he's done that work that you're talking about, and he's taking care of a lot of people, and yet you don't think of him as a loser. You don't think of him as having a horrible WrestleMania record. I mean, he almost has like the anti-Undertaker record. So, I give him credit for that, and I think, he's definitely on my list of the wrestlers, I think, in the last, 20 years, 15 years, whatever you want to say, that have really done a great job for the business.
Yes.
And that's proof positive. I mean, the guy just doesn't care if he wins or loses. He wants to tell a story. He wants to get people interested, and he's a class act. Yes. And I think that, your point is well taken. So I won't complain if he gets his hand raised, as he did today.
Absolutely, and he's a man who's going to be sorely missed. Is he a step slower than he was a few years ago? Yeah. But did a fantastic job tonight at WrestleMania. Made AJ look phenomenal, no pun intended.
Nice.
Made AJ look fantastic. Amazing. And the two of them had probably one of the best matches of the night. But to update the situation, this last time I'm going to talk about the douchebag on the show, and I'm not talking about Coach being a douchebag. Coach is awesome. Colin Cowherd's a douchebag. Colin Cowherd said, the iHeartRadio Music Awards are fantastic. Here's what's not. Hanging out with 90,000 sweaty booger eaters at WrestleMania. And Coach says, dude, at least be accurate. It's 101,000 having fun. Too bad you can never see that. I'm having a ball. Good for you, Coach. Thank you, Coach. And it's, people like that, even my uncle, who wasn't, and if you ask him, he's not a big wrestling fan, but sat there tonight, watched WrestleMania, and for some of it was in awe of it. Sat there, soaked it all in, and I think he enjoyed it. So it was nice. I was able to share that with somebody and hopefully made them become a little bit of a fan. But for somebody who's just blatantly ignorant like that. But enough about a scumbag like that. Let's go back to what really matters, and that's WrestleMania tonight. Sorry about that, folks. That just really irked me. Anytime somebody's that ignorant like that, I feel for a business that I'm passionate about and love to do a radio show about, even though only a few hundred people are going to hear it, I still feel it's doing my part to stand up for the business that I love. So, having said that, League of Nations and Sheamus, and the New Day. The best part of this, Mike, and I want your thoughts, the best part of this was the 20-foot tall box of bootios. That was so awesome.
I could not agree more. I mean, that was different. So it was entertaining. And then, as so many things happened tonight, then the match happened. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't, Hold on. There was nothing awful that occurred. But
hold on one second. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. 972, you were on Main Event Madness.
This would be your special live correspondent, Kurt Zamora speaking.
Hey, brother, what's up?
What's up, dude?
Running down on some WrestleMania 32 and was talking about another topic that, it's for another day. Good old disrespect to the wrestling business. Gotta love it. But nonetheless, man, enough about that. How was WrestleMania 32 being there in person?
It was, I'm looking forward to watching the replay when I get, or not when I get home, but at some point, because I thought, the last match was quite boring, and when you're, sitting there for 6 hours, that wasn't the match to close with. But if you take that out of the equation, man, that show hit a home run. That was phenomenal top to bottom, and a lot of fun to be a part of. I was really glad to be there.
So let me just ask you point blank. And area code 214, please call back in a couple minutes. Don't want to flood it with too many phone calls.
I won't be on long. I'm trying to get out of traffic here, so yeah, you can call back.
Yeah, call back in just a couple minutes. I think I know who that is. I think that's Rich Nava. So, Rich, if that's you, call back in a couple minutes, man. How loud did you guys boo Roman Reigns at the end?
What's funny is that when Roman Reigns won, he actually got a pretty big face pop. I don't know if it was people happy that the show was finally over or just happy to see a title change, but he actually got a good ovation, and then they started booing.
So, was it as quiet? Make sure to watch that when you get a chance. And either message me on Facebook or tweet me and let me know what you think, because it was very quiet when Reigns was celebrating with the belt.
Oh, yeah, when he was celebrating, it was quiet because, half the arena was ready to get out of the building. We were there for, going on 7 hours.
So when he was posing in the turnbuckle after the fireworks went off, you guys weren't booing him?
No, not really, because, okay. There were people leaving during the match because it wasn't a good match and it was slow pace, so they were just ready to get out of there. And as soon as the bell rung, I think the crowd cheered because it was finally over, and then half the building just walked out the door. Okay, so, Mike, we might have been wrong then. Because we thought that they turned the mics down for the crowd, because it was ridiculous. No, they definitely didn't do that. It was there was not much of a reaction after the initial pop for winning the title.
And
John, I was already out the building when Triple H was still in the ring getting up, and they played his music. So that kind of gives you an idea of how long they were taking, because people were out the building before Triple H was even out of the ring.
It sounds like, Kurt, what you're saying is people were like, they were almost too tired to actually boo. By that point, they were just like, let us out of here. Just finish this so we can be done.
That's probably a fair assessment. I would say, in hindsight, I would love to see the show the same amount of length, but I would love to have seen what would have happened had the Hell in a Cell and Reigns and Triple H been flipped. Because I don't know if the crowd was too tired to care, but I'm sure that I think that they would have had a different reaction had those matches been flipped. Because I don't think, Taker Shane doing what they did gets a, silent, tired response, even if they close the show. So I think it was more just that was the wrong match to close the show, and after 7 hours, people were just like, thank God this is over. Whereas if they had flipped the matches, I think the Hell in a Cell would have ended the show on the high note, and the fans would be like, man, that was 7 great hours of programming, and would almost be leaving wanting just a little bit more, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Definitely, and I feel bad for you guys. I'm exhausted. And I'm sitting here.
It was a long day, man. We got there, I called you guys on the pre-show, and I got there, 2:30, and
10 hours.
Now it's 11:19 our time, so that's 9 hours. That's a long day.
Kind of scares me a little bit for WrestleMania next year.
Kurt, I wanted to ask you a question. What time did you? We were talking about the pre-show, and it looked like there was nobody in the building for most of it because I guess there were some issues with getting in. What time did you actually end up being able to get to your seat?
Well, they originally said the doors were at 3. Then they changed it to 3:30 on Wednesday, and then I don't think the doors actually opened by about 3:45. I mean, it was a madhouse. I mean, it was just, people cramped in small spaces, and everyone was there early, like I was saying on the pre-show. So, once the doors actually opened, like I said, they probably opened about 3:45, and we were in our seats by 4:10. So it probably took a little less than a half hour to get to our seats. It was probably empty until probably the first match because the concourses are really backed up before the entrance of the show, like the actual main show. But it wasn't too bad.
So what are your thoughts overall on the entire WrestleMania?
Man, I think they had a home run. I mean, if I had to grade it, just because they ended on a bad note, I'd give it, 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really thought it was that good. They kept me entertained the entire show until that main event, and it was just a bad match.
I don't know if I would go that high, and that's just because were there fantastic matches all night long? Yes, we were obscenely spoiled by that. But some of the booking, actually most of the booking.
Well, to me, it's like when you look at the card, and what the show was built around, and you have to take away the main event, in my opinion, in everything we talk about, because it was just, that's going to be the black eye of the show. But, Ambrose Lesnar delivered, Hell in the Cell delivered, the Triple Threat Divas match absolutely delivered. We got great surprises. The Rock absolutely delivered. We got some great surprises. Baron Corbin winning the Battle Royal was outstanding. Of course, my guy, Zack Ryder, winning the ladder match, which I predicted. I want everyone to know that I predicted that. It was a really good show, and I think that we talked about on the pre-show. I think we'll look back on this show and be surprised at how good this show was, considering their injuries.
Yeah, I think I gotta rewatch it again, parts of it. I think I was just a little bit bitter over Sasha not winning and over Shane losing to The Undertaker.
I think that's a testament to how good the show was, because, the result, when you look at the results, like, if you just read a piece of paper what the results were, and you see Jericho beat Styles, and the League of Nations beat the New Day, and Sasha Banks doesn't win the women's title, and Taker beat Shane, like, you got, if you look at the show before it happens, you got every result you didn't want, but yet the work rate was outstanding. The matches made sense, and it didn't leave you. I didn't think any match left you disappointed unless you were just 100% against Roman Reigns winning. Which, if you were, I understand that. But even if you didn't get the result you wanted, it didn't just leave you just flabbergasted or disgruntled because it was a horrible match or they got buried or anything like that.
I don't know. I think I just went into it with expectations, kind of that, especially with Taker 1. I think it was just a case of I wanted something that likely wasn't going to happen, and I think I focused on that a little too much. But
I think the surprising thing about the show is considering how everyone felt there would be a ton of bells and whistles in certain matches to make up for, lack of availability. If you take, the Austin HBK Foley segment was awesome with the League of Nations. But if you look at those matches where you expected a lot of interference and a lot of bells and whistles and stuff, you didn't get that. Taker Shane was a clean finish. Roman Reigns Triple H was a clean finish. There was nothing like that. I thought that was quite surprising, but again, I thought that spoke to the work rate of the show.
Well, and I would say, Kurt, some of that stuff I think plays better when you're there for sure. I mean, again, just my observation and watching it from afar. But I think the segment with the legends, especially. I mean, of course, that's going to be a great segment if you're there because you've got these great wrestlers, that we all know and love there. Doing anything is excellent. But over TV, I guess maybe it just fell a little bit flatter because of the involvement piece. Maybe, again, selfishly, you just want them to get more involved, not necessarily interfering, but just kind of having a greater role than just sort of come down. But I get your point, because I definitely feel like when things happen and you're there personally, it adds another level of, hey, this is pretty cool. These are guys that are Hall of Famers, and they're here and they're doing stuff. And I can't argue that point, because I think that there is a little bit of that, too, being there versus watching it through, not live, in person.
Right. I also think that with the lack of major surprises tonight in terms of reveals or debuts or anything like that, I think that leaves tomorrow night very open-ended, and I think there's going to be quite a few, plot twists or debuts or surprises in store for tomorrow. Because it seems like they didn't reveal much tonight in terms of setting stuff up for tomorrow. So I think a lot could happen tomorrow night on Raw.
Well, I'm going to put you both on the spot here. I'm going to try to talk to my co-host, also Mark Madison. What do you guys think? You want to do an impromptu show tomorrow night after Monday Night Raw?
Absolutely.
I will not be available after Raw tomorrow, but we can get on Wednesday and we can talk about it.
Definitely, we'll definitely talk. I know Brandon's going to be on as well, but I don't know if Evan's going to be on this week or not. So we can definitely talk about that for sure. But I don't know. I'll talk with Mark, and yeah, why not?
Yeah, just get with me. I'm on the road now, so I'm going to let y'all go so I can get on the highway and get out of here. But, just let me know. But, from a live perspective, it was a great show. I really enjoyed it, and I hope everyone who's listening enjoyed it. And maybe when we talk on Wednesday or if it needs to be next week, we'll be able to reflect back on the show and talk more in detail about it.
Absolutely, man. I hope so. But I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. Drive safe, and we will definitely talk soon. Thanks for calling in.
All right, man.
Thanks, Chris.
I will talk to y'all soon. Thanks for having me on again, guys.
No problem, man. Take it easy.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, Mike, so let's plan on that. Let's do a little impromptu Raw post-game show. Nothing big, maybe half hour or something, unless that much major. So stick with us tomorrow night, guys. WrestleMania weekend's just going to keep on going. We're going to do a post-WrestleMania Raw post-game show tomorrow night. We'll say 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Go for a half an hour or so. Or even 11:15. But nonetheless, let's dive right back into this. Mike, are you with me?
I am here.
All right. So, how crazy was it to see Shawn Michaels back in his ring gear? I mean, I marked out because I couldn't even really hear what Barrett said. I thought he issued an open challenge or something.
Yeah. Well, right. I agree. That was actually one of the best moments of the night. And, it does kind of put things in perspective hearing from Kurt, because I definitely would not put this WrestleMania on that level. But I can sort of understand if you were there, there was stuff going on that was pretty cool. And that was one of the moments that was pretty awesome. I mean, anytime you can see Shawn Michaels, get involved, let alone to that extent, is definitely a good thing. But again, it was sort of like thrown together. It was like, let's just sort of pick 3 random people and, have them come down and do their thing. I'm never going to complain about seeing Shawn Michaels do anything in the ring. But again, just, I feel like it was just sort of appealing to people's short attention spans. Like, if we just throw shiny objects up, you'll believe that this was really a great idea. And unfortunately, with all due respect to anybody that really liked it, and I'm happy to, debate that or anything else, I'm not saying it was a stinker. I think guys tried very hard, but I wasn't impressed with the planning. I feel like they fell apart in the planning. And John, you more than me, because I definitely was following your Twitter throughout the evening. you were getting on the booking calls, and I think you were right on for most of them. I felt like there were some questionable decisions, and you could have booked it better. If Shawn Michaels is coming to the event, let's know that, let's celebrate that, and that would make that all the better when he shows up.
My biggest pet peeve in that is he should not have been in ring gear if he wasn't competing.
Agree.
That visual, it should be saved for when he comes back to wrestle, which he will at some point. Let's be realistic.
Well, and it was kind of the same thing with The Rock, by the way. Because I don't know if I got the story wrong, but I was pretty positive that I had read that The Rock was not going to be able to do anything, but I may be overstating it. Maybe it was he couldn't have a match, but he could do physical stuff. So granted, they sort of, made it last very quickly, as you said before. But when The Rock, showed that, hey, I've got my ring gear on, I'm ready to go, like you, I mean, in that moment, I'm like, well, this is pretty cool. I wasn't expecting this to happen. And then, then it sort of happened, and I went, oh, well, okay, what's next?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I crapped on The Rock burying Eric Rowan, that's a little bit of my bitterness, because I was bitter about that segment for one thing. You want a WrestleMania moment, you spit in the face, not even spit in the face, you took a crap on everybody's hopes for the one WrestleMania moment that could have shined through this WrestleMania and really put it near that pedestal that Kurt put it on. Had Cena turn on Rock.
Sure.
And they teased it a little bit, because you saw Cena staying away, or a little bit further away, and almost like a fighting stance a little bit. And they didn't do it. Had Cena done that, oh my God, imagine the crowd, man.
Well, I think you're right, although I wonder if some of that is just what we're talking about, where, he may not be able to take a bump. So you could still do it without, him doing a move on him, but I don't know contractually with the movie studios and everything.
Right.
I'm sure they have to get him cleared to do what they want to do. So I don't know how much of that went into that decision, but on the surface, I agree with you. I mean, if ever you were going to do that with John,
this was your moment.
The time to do it, yeah.
And that could explain why they didn't have Rock come out and Reigns, because, I mentioned on the pregame show, have Reigns attack Rock, and you'd be solved. But
absolutely. But, if you recall, and again, I didn't get too many right, so don't, there's a reason I don't have a crystal ball or Powerball tickets, when they're available. But I definitely said for sure, this is one I'll give myself the Barry Horowitz pat on the back, that, the WWE plays it safe. And, they do take chances. And they're smart in the chances they take, because it gets people talking. And they've done this to us time and time again. And you said it yourself, whether it's Corbin, whether it's Zack Ryder, they get you excited about something that a certain segment of the fan base wants, whether it's majority or not, or a vocal minority. They play to it, and then they pull it away. It's like Lucy with the football with Charlie Brown. Mm-hmm. You get all excited, and you run, you're going to kick the field goal, and then the same result happens over and over again. And I think in that match, it's an example of that. The straight call was to keep with the plan and have Roman Reigns win as a face, even though they heard the majority of the freaking attendance record building booing Roman Reigns. I mean, and just think about the enormity of that. Like, again, and Kurt alluded to this in his comments, the guy who is the champion has been the symbol of evil, right? He comes out and craps on the fans in his, scripted comments week after week. When that guy is getting cheered, right? When the offense of the challenger that you're supposed to be rooting for is greeted with boos, which I know happened. So I would tell anybody, you don't even have to be there for it. You can go back and cue it up right now or watch the replay on the network, and you will hear the first 10 minutes of that match, any offense that Roman got in, if it was greeted with anything, it was boos. And then eventually the boos gave way to silence. So the point is, they took the easy way out. They went with their plan, Had they done something like you were suggesting, it would have been daring. It would have at least admitted, hey, you know what? We're not going to say we're wrong, but we'll move in a different direction, even if it's just to placate you temporarily. But instead, they just did what they generally do in these situations, and they stuck to the drawing board. And that, I think, is the frustration part and some of what you were talking about before. It doesn't take away from the show and the performances of the guys and the girls that busted their butts for all of our entertainment tonight. It's not a reflection on them. It's a reflection on the position that the company is putting them in.
I think tonight shows you a prime example. Vince McMahon has truly lost his touch. If you look up and down this card, there are more glaring signs than not that Vince McMahon stuck to his guns and kept with the shitty storytelling that they were doing, lack thereof, but the minute little storytelling they were doing. And he was stubborn, and he did what he wanted. Case in point, Charlotte winning, Brock Lesnar winning, Shane McMahon losing, and Roman Reigns winning. He went into that doing what he wanted to do, the hell with what the fans wanted. Because, I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, the overwhelming theme of this show was, why did you even bother? And nothing more screams to me aside from the Hell in a Cell match, than Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar. Why should I care? As much as I'm a massive Dean Ambrose fan, I'm wearing a Dean Ambrose shirt. Why should I care what he does, what he says tomorrow night on Raw? When he's probably going to try to challenge Dean or Roman Reigns for the title, and he's going to turn on Dean. But why should I care? Why should Mike care? Why should Mark care? Why should anybody care what Dean Ambrose says or does? Why should anybody care what the Wyatts say? Why should anybody care what AJ Styles says? It doesn't make sense. Maybe not so much AJ Styles, but Dean Ambrose, Becky Lynch especially, and the Wyatts came out of WrestleMania tonight looking like garbage.
Yeah, I think that's true. And the funny part is, I think in the case of a couple of them, they probably have the opposite opinion. When Bray came to the ring initially to interrupt The Rock, and we didn't even really touch on how ridiculous that segment was, that The Rock has been, overwhelming social media with details of his, groundbreaking announcement and how it was going to electrify everybody. And again, that's the part that's frustrating. So if people want to take umbrage with what I'm going to say, I'm okay with that. I don't
embrace being the heel of the show. I've loved it for 2 years. Embrace it. I need another one on this show.
Well, the thing is, all I'm saying, John, is, I don't do this to have people agree with me. If they do, that's great. But I will say that I love The Rock. I think The Rock is great. Anything that he wants to do is entertaining. The guy could be in a room with nothing and be entertaining. But my comment is, if you notice, his comments were the least PG thing that WWE did tonight. Guys can't come out and say that stuff anymore. So The Rock gets, the ability to say whatever he wants, whenever he wants, which people love, and he deserves it. But it just goes to show you, again, WWE doesn't listen. They're like, well, we have to be family-friendly. We can't go back to that. I get it. But you have to make some concessions. So that'd be my first point. And then this groundbreaking announcement is about the attendance, which, quite frankly, again, no offense to people that went, I get that I'm going to come across as jealous. But nobody cares. We know that you inflate the numbers, right?
Actually, I don't mean to cut you off. I could believe that attendance number. For a stadium that held 105,000 for basketball, and considering the states that wasn't actually that big, I could buy 101,000.
Well, listen, you can, and maybe they're right. But unfortunately, they suffer from the fact that they've lied about it so many times that it's like the boy who cried wolf.
Exactly.
So even if they're right, I'm not going to get all excited about it. I mean, if you're there, again, that's pretty cool. That's a cool moment. Do we need The Rock to tell us that? Is that the groundbreaking, oh my God, I'm so glad The Rock is here thing? So they get through that horror, and then Bray comes out. And so again, John, if you're like me, and I think we agree on some of these things, you're now sort of excited because you're like, okay, well, Bray wasn't involved, earlier. This is going to be his moment where he's going to do something cool, and this is going to be great. And then he cuts his promo, and then, as you said, then Rock craps all over it. So now you're back to, okay, so what's going on?
And it makes
and then he sort of starts complimenting Bray, and saying, oh, you've got it, and the fans, pull out their phones. And so it's like, again, Vince is trying to have it both ways. He's acknowledging, just like Dean Ambrose, that Bray has that it factor, but he refuses to give people what they're asking for. Like, people have told you that they want Dean Ambrose and they want Bray Wyatt in the main events because they're interested in their character. And to give both of those guys credit, they've taken gimmicks that are, not the world's best gimmicks, let's face it. And they've turned them into things that they no longer need a gimmick. They show up, they start talking, and you get transfixed. So I think, to your point, like, that's part of my frustration is then when he comes out and does his thing, you sort of give him a wink and a nudge and say, oh, well, you were in there, but really it was just an excuse to get a Rock funny promo and then, get your guy laid out in the span of time it would take you to blink.
Mm-hmm. Because he got laughed at, and that shows you, yes, I may come off as a mark and a bitter person or whatever you want to call me. He was Wyatt was buried by Rock. Whether you want to deny that or not, and you guys can bash me all you want on Twitter, I don't really care. Rock buried Bray, buried Rowan. And Strowman was just there. But Cena, Cena. That's really, okay. So they never really, especially the whole I don't respect you thing, so why would Cena, of all people, come to Rock's aid? Especially Cena, who got the one-upsmanship and buried Wyatt himself. It just, I don't understand where you're gonna. It's like you said with Lucy and the football. You're gonna try to catch it, it gets pulled away. You want to push all these new guys, but you're pushing the wrong ones. Dean Ambrose, despite my comments, Dean Ambrose talks, you listen. Bray Wyatt talks, you listen.
Yep.
So tomorrow night, have fun muting that crowd, because that's basically what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to mute them, because you're going to have 17,000 people booing Reigns out of the building. They didn't boo him tonight because they didn't have the strength. And I think that's another reason they overran so long, was to tire them out so they wouldn't boo him. Maybe I'm reading into that too much, but...
Well, and by the way, John, I would say, Kurt, hinted at this too, but I also think, to your booking point, that, the match order was confusing. Like, I just think that they made a lot of... It's easy for me to say. I'm not in the business, obviously. I'm outside of it, and therefore, blissfully ignorant in some cases of how they make these decisions, but I agree with him that they should have flipped those two matches for sure, especially with how they ended. But besides that, they put the goofy Andre the Giant, Battle Royal, like in the last...
Which was rushed.
It just didn't make sense. The way that they sort of... I like the open. I think the fact that they did the Intercontinental title match, like, that was smart, because it got the crowd really into it. And then from there, it just sort of, like, unraveled, I think, and that didn't help either. And to your point, like, they can't really do a 3-hour Raw that can captivate you. And so now they want to do a 4 and a 4.5 hour pay-per-view, where you can't call that anymore.
5 hour
special, whatever.
5 hour.
Right. So they're going to do a 4.5 hour, show, and again, that just gives it just gives you the opportunity to be more critical. So, if they had found a way to edit this down to maybe a more reasonable length, again, the wrestling fan in me is like, oh, great, more wrestling. But the, critic in me is like, well, you're just giving me more things to be irritated about by the time we get to the end of this.
And now we're going to go into... Now, here's a big question. Here's a $64,000 question to you. Is John Cena on Raw tomorrow? Because they heavily played up that Cena wasn't able or wasn't fit to compete.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has to be, because you and I know better. I mean, again, it depends if you follow the websites or not. I would think, most people that are listening to us probably do. We know that John Cena is, he's said himself that he's medically cleared. At least I believe he said that. I don't know if he officially said, I am medically cleared, period. But he made it very clear that, he's not coming back against doctor's orders. So,
and it
I
has been
have
at least
thrown out there
reportedly confirmed that he is, cleared to compete. So,
okay.
Now the biggest thing is, was this the beginning of John Cena as a nostalgia act? Or is John Cena back?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think that they're going to have to get their heads around it. Maybe they've started the idea of life without John Cena, at least on a full-time basis, due to his other projects. Like it or not, the guy is getting movie roles now. He's getting this TV show, this show that's on Fox. So, again, I mean, he's not my cup of tea. He never has been. I don't think I'm his target demographic. I'm probably a couple, decades too late for that, considering that I'm pushing 40. But the point is, he's not going to appeal to me, but he definitely taps into something with the younger crowd. So I think you're right. I think it's already kind of a nostalgia act. He still operates at a very high level, and I still have all respect for his ability to tell a story in the ring and his physical conditioning. I mean, I've seen that guy at house shows bust his butt like every camera in the world is on him. So I have nothing but respect for him as a wrestler. As a performer, again, not my cup of tea. But I think WWE is recognizing that they're not going to have him on a full-time schedule, and therefore they have to turn him into, as you say, a little bit of a nostalgia act.
And that's what he came across as tonight, too. He didn't come across as a conquering main eventer, conquering mid-card star. He came across as a Stone Cold Shawn Michaels, Rock McFoley-esque nostalgia act.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of sad. As much of all this bashing I'm doing is seen as a guy, for the most part, I grew up, I came back to wrestling when I was 14. So for argument's sake, I grew up watching John Cena. That's kind of sad. See a guy I grew up as, and to hear it's weird, and you probably were the same way when they started truly saying like Rock and Austin were greats. When you hear them, JBL's like, oh, the great John Cena. It's like that doesn't sound right. Like it just doesn't feel like it's gone by that quick. But we're coming up on an hour here. Do you want to keep going, or do you want to wrap up?
I'm good. If you want to go, I'm good.
I say let's go another 15. Sound good?
All right, yeah, let's do it.
And we definitely, and I am so excited to get Mark's thoughts on this on Wednesday. Maybe even tomorrow night. I'll definitely know for sure tomorrow if Mark wants to be on or not. But regardless, I think Mike and I are going to be here after Raw.
So, we're going to do our therapy session.
Oh, yeah. So real quick, we'll run through this. Charlotte and Ric Flair defeated Becky Lynch and Sasha. No, I didn't misspeak there. Such a bullshit ending. And people are like, oh, but it's continuing the angle. Okay, it's WrestleMania. It's supposed to be the culmination, not the continuation of this bullshit. And I'm sorry, but it was Sasha Banks' moment. And I don't care who wants to argue that with me. It was Sasha Banks' night. I mean, congratulations, regardless to Charlotte for winning the women's championship. But what were your thoughts?
I don't know that I hated the ending as much as you did, although I can understand why you did. Because it did feel like it was just another chapter in the match. My feeling is, I think because they were having multiple titles change hands, you know how wrestling is. They don't want all the belts changing hands on the same. It's like one of those rules. So I chalk part of it up to that. And I think the other part is that maybe because they're doing this transformation, they want Charlotte to have a little more time in the sun as the official women's champion before they transition. But The good news I have for you, John, is, again, just cementing it. I mean, we can be pissed about the fact she didn't win it tonight, but she's going to win it. I mean, again, nobody is getting the reaction that she's getting, and she's, really playing it up to the best degree. So that, I think, is the silver lining here. I thought the match was outstanding. The ending I didn't really hate, but I didn't love it. I'm okay with Charlotte as the champion. I think she's been fine. Although I did mention later that I think that they should have probably taken that vacated Divas title, and maybe Triple H and Roman Reigns could have, fought over that instead of the World Championship. Everybody would have been happy.
Exactly. You could put the World Championship on the line between Brock and Dean.
There you go. Right.
I don't mean to deviate from the topic, but I got to mention this. I've seen a lot of tweets already, and I wonder if this is going to be trending by the morning. It's back again. Hashtag cancel WWE Network. I love it. I love Twitter. I freaking love Twitter. That is definitely...
In fact, John, I've got a good one for you too. There's a couple. This is a tweet from somebody that I imagine we both have a lot of respect for, which is Jim Ross.
Okay.
So someone asked Jim Ross, what is going on with the Reigns push against the fan base? What a question, right? Which is what we're talking about right now.
Right.
And Jim Ross said, and this is a quote, "I can only assume that it's strictly a come hell or high water upper management decision. Reigns will be a great heel." So, again, I mean, this is a guy with knowledge of the business. I've never been inside a wrestling writing room. I can only imagine what goes on in there, but that's just more fuel for what you're talking about. I think it's like Vince's way or the highway. We know that about him. And when he has his mind made up that this is how the story's going to be told, that's what he's going to do.
Great minds think alike. The two of us and Jim Ross. And, if you guys saw the Hall of Fame, you guys saw Michael Hayes kind of get a little salty about people's opinion of the writers. Can I just say, as much as he said people are they work hard, you don't know what goes into it. Is this what goes on in the WWE creative room? Does that mean?
No, actually, it was great. I enjoyed that more than some of the time I spent watching this.
I should tweet Jim Ross and be like, hey. I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to be like, I'm going to tweet Jim Ross, but hey, what did Doink the Clown and WWE Creative have in common? They're both clowning around.
I was going to say to you, John, I envision it in my mind's eye as kind of like in Austin Powers when Dr. Evil has his henchmen at the table, and when somebody says something that he disagrees with, he just pushes a button, and they fall through the floor.
Oh, God. I don't know when we took such a sharp left turn to Hatesville for WWE, but God. They did it to themselves.
It's all out of love, but yeah, there is some frustration here, and I think it's, like I said, I can only judge by, the Twitter reaction, the people that, that I know on Twitter, that tweet me, that I read their tweets, and you and I are not the only ones that are having that sense of frustration. So, it's not that it's all bad. It's just there's things that make you question the decision making, and when something is so obvious, you have to kind of go, really? You're not getting that?
I didn't mean to laugh and cut you off. So I put at Jim Ross, or his Twitter handle, what do hashtag WWE Creative and the Circus have in common? They're clowning around hashtag WrestleMania. I went to put hashtag cancel WWE Network, and it's not hashtag cancel WWE Network. It's hashtag cancel WWE Network again. So for all you guys that may think we're bad to WWE, hopefully I get some kind of reaction from him. But nonetheless, guys, it was a very top-heavy show. And by top-heavy, I mean the beginning was good and the end was horrible. But Undertaker and Shane McMahon, I gotta say, it was an awesome match. For a combined 97 years old, they put on a fantastic match. And to think that Undertaker went 30 minutes with a 46-year-old Shane McMahon. Nuts. That is nuts. But what stood out to you the most? I think I'm asking this like it's going to be a surprise, but
yeah, I think you know what I'm going to say. Although I have to say again, at the risk of drawing the ire, I wasn't as enthralled with this match as everybody else. I mean, I thought that it was what you said. It was a perfectly scripted match for these two guys to sort of fall all over each other, and there were some great moments. But like the submissions, especially that sharpshooter, they looked really bad. So I mean, again, like I'm not trying to pick on Shane. I understand that he's just doing the best he can. But if we're judging this as a match and not just an event or two, I wasn't really that loving it. I mean, I'm a huge Undertaker fan. I think he has done awesome things, and he's been given a little bit of a tough sledding on some of his opponents. I mean, you tried making Giant Gonzalez look good. But I will say to you, to answer your question, yeah, the moment of the night was absolutely Shane taking that insane suicide dive off of the Hell in a Cell through the table, the announce table. And I mean, that truly was, if this match existed to give us that moment, again, my hat goes off to Shane, because I don't know too many people that can be away from something like this for that long and come back and provide something like that purely for our amusement. Mm-hmm. And to me, it was a little scary. I was reminded of the documentary where, Mick Foley was taking the chair shots from The Rock with his kids watching. Because, he brings his family down, and I'm thinking, is this a great idea? Because you're going to watch your dad,
almost
become perhaps paralyzed.
This is an awesome angle. Shane does the cross. Breathing. Elbow drop. Taker gets out of the way. That's an awesome view. Somebody who's front row. Right behind one of the announce tables. That was awesome. But, yeah, I mean, it felt a little morbid.
Right.
I don't know. That kind of made me a little uneasy. I'm like, okay, maybe, Shane's going to win. And then at the end of it, when he loses, harkens back to what we've said.
Well, plus, John, let me ask you this. Did you find it strange that Shane kicked out of the last ride?
Not really. It's kind of been a finishing move that hasn't really done much for the Undertaker over the last couple of years.
Well, fair enough, but I mean, it's Shane McMahon. It's not like we're talking about, I just think, the finishers have been so devalued. Like, again, it's no offense.
Styles Clash.
Shane. I just thought it was a little silly. It
was a weak night for finishes. I mean, the pop-up powerbomb did nothing. Super kicks did nothing. Sweet Chin Musics did nothing. The Styles Clash to Jericho did nothing. A last ride and the choke slam onto steel steps did nothing. I mean, it's just... And lastly, I feel like I gotta go get some mouthwash. Roman Reigns versus Triple H for the main event World Championship. Yeah, silence.
Damn!
I wonder, actually. Hold on. Is there one on here? I gotta see. Let's see. There's that one, which was adults booing, and then there's... Does that not sum it up?
That's actually perfect. It reminds me of... That's what it sounds like when I walk into a room, usually.
Oh, God. So, real quick here before we get ready to wrap up. Roman Reigns, Triple H, any thoughts?
I mean, what can you say about that match other than just, it was just bland? I mean, you're picking that match to close the show, you're doing an overrun, and, I don't know if it's the feud, I don't know if it's just the apathy toward Roman Reigns and what they're trying to do, but it really fell flat. The entry, the introductions were, Triple H's introduction, God knows how much that cost, but I hope it was worth it. There was like some kind of weird community theater vibe.
What's his married last name? It don't matter how much it costs. It costs more. Hold on, I gotta say this. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'd be remiss. These entrance cost more than these NXT talents are getting paid. They're getting less than $25,000 a year. It's less than a New York City school teacher. Which is actually true.
Well done.
I love you, Evan. That was in love, and I hope to God you don't listen to these shows today. If I do, you probably are going to hate me for the rest of your life. But if nothing else, at least I've gotten that impression better over the last couple of years.
But what you're saying is true. The thing it just so that was odd. The typically over-scripted, over-performed. Then they started the match. The match was fine. It again didn't pop, but it was bland. And then the ending, I guess they had tossed out that it might potentially be no disqualification at one point to make way for the interference that you would presume would be happening. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they could have thrown us a little bit of a bone and at least teased a little bit of interference. Would have killed them to have Seth Rollins show up, even if he didn't do anything. Maybe just be in a skybox somewhere, like staring intently. I don't think that these are production decisions that are that challenging to do. So they didn't. They just kind of had a straight-up match, and, the good guy won, even though a lot of people don't think he is the good guy, and you were just kind of left, as you said, with that kind of sigh feeling of like, well, that happened, so I guess I'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's just... It's a shame, because they had such potential to do something good, but nonetheless, guys, that is going to do it for this WrestleMania post-game show. Follow Mike Holland. Special thanks to you, sir, for stepping in for the post-game show tonight and for the pre-game show earlier and for the show last week. Great job. Give him a follow on Twitter, guys, at Darman Rockwell, DHARMAN Rockwell. And be sure to check out his work on tjrwrestling.net. And in the next few weeks, we are going to actually, him, Brandon, Kurt, and Hank, we're going to start getting their work, I believe, if it's not already on our Facebook page, facebook.com/maineventmadness. And on that note, guys, follow me on Twitter at JohnMEMRadio. And until next time, guys, we are out. Have a great rest of your night. Lord willing, you guys will be back with us tomorrow night for a brief edition of Main Event Madness, a WrestleMania weekend wrap-up kind of post-Mania Raw post-game show, something like that. I'll have a better name for it tomorrow when I can actually sleep, because 8 hours of this crap was too much. So until next time, guys, be good, be safe, and we'll see you next time. Mike, thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean.
The preceding broadcast was an MEM Network production. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you missed a part or all of tonight's show, visit Spreaker.com/show/maineventmadness or PWPNation.com. Also, every week, we stream live on Wrestling-News.net. And for the latest news on the show, like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/maineventmadness. Be sure to catch us back here every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're Main Event Madness. Madness Unleashed. Have a good one, everybody. So long.